I don't think fashion shows are ever going to go away. I mean, I think we'll be back at it. It's still the best way to present your collection. You know, there's nothing better than seeing something in person and seeing the way it moves on a model and the real color and all of those things. But I think moving forward, we're always going to have some sort of hybrid between digital and in person, if only for sustainability and global warming. And I don't think we're going to be jet setting around as much and flying off to Paris and Milan and all of that.
Hello and welcome back to A Fashion Moment. Christina Neault is one of the most powerful people in fashion show production. Her tireless hours behind the scenes are the driving force behind many of your favorite New York runway moments and fashion shows. From orchestrating the Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week calendars to running the fashion programming at Pier 59. Christina is an industry mainstay and one of the most brilliant people you'll ever meet. She's one of the first people in the industry to take a chance on this Black girl from Colton, California. She trained me and gave me the foundational tools that I needed to succeed in the business. She's one of my favorite bosses of all time, and I'm so glad that you get to hear our conversation about her journey.
Christina, thank you so much for coming on the show. I am thrilled to have you. I mean, clearly you're one of the smartest and hardest working people in fashion, probably one of the biggest known unknowns for folks who don't work in the industry. So just to get a sense of how in the world did you end up in fashion? Where are you from? Did you go to school for this? How did this happen?
Well, thanks for having me, Kirsten. How did I end up in fashion? Well, I kind of always knew I wanted to be in fashion, even in junior high and high school. It started with Barbie and Bob Mackie. And, I always wanted to go to fashion school. I didn't quite know what I wanted to do. I started at Johnson & Wales in Rhode Island in retail management for the first year of college. Then I worked retail. And then I was like, oh, no, don't want to do that. So I transferred to the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York.
Wow.
And I was a production management major with a minor in textiles. Because at the time I thought I wanted to do actual physical construction of clothes and work in a factory and all of that good stuff. Wow. And when, which I was excited, my dream was to work at Brooks Brothers and the whole 9 yards. I loved the construction of clothing. But when I graduated from college, everything went overseas.
Wow.
So I ended doing some quality control for, believe it or not, The Limited. Back when stirrup pants were the big thing. And that was brutally boring. Wow. So I started working for a company called the Men's Fashion Association, really just part-time, Xeroxing clippings for their PR department.
Wow.
And they used to do these 2 mini fashion weeks, Men Fashion Week. And I started helping them with the fashion shows, and one thing led to another. And then all of a sudden I was full-time.
Wow. And you just essentially jump right in. Did you expand into any other entertainment sectors, or was it strictly fashion?
Well, it was strictly fashion. We used to do a series of fashion shows and events twice a year, one in LA, one in New York. Mm-hmm. That was on the retail cycle. So we would do the shows as they were going into the stores. So April and October.
Wow.
And we would do, we also did the American Image Awards and a few award ceremonies. And it was really hosting this group of people over a 3-day period of time. So it was everything from catering to maybe 10 to 15 fashion shows in that 3 days.
Oh my goodness. I mean, you are just so well versed and sort of executing multiple events at one time, and you make it look very easy. So what would you say is one of the most challenging things about planning multi-level events and that nature, just like a million events a day? How do you do it?
You got to have a good team that knows what they're doing, that cares about what they're doing, and that you don't have to worry of whether it's getting done. I kind of thrive on doing multiple things at once. My mother always said, if you want to get something done, ask a busy person. and it's like, it could never be truer. I am so much more efficient when I'm busy.
Yeah.
Because you don't have time to think about it. You just say yes, no, black, white. There's no gray. You just get it done.
I love it. I'm the same way. That's why it was so great working with you. I'm curious, how did you end up at IMG?
Oh, I was freelancing after my MFA years. They were in Bryant Park at the time. This was in the late 90s, early 2000s. I was a venue manager. So basically, I ran one of their 4 venues. So all the shows that happened within that space, which was about 20 shows over the week. Wow. So I oversaw the lighting, staging, and sound, and the individual designers and their productions within that space. I did that for several seasons. And then IMG bought it from the CFDA in 2001. Their first season was 9/11. And
wow.
Then they started expanding. IMG now owned New York Fashion Week and IMG Models. And we had put out a bid to do the NFL opening in Times Square.
Wow.
And they wanted to do a big fashion show. So they hired me to do a big fashion show. We got all the designers to redesign football jerseys. And we had celebrities. We had like a cheerleader from every single team, and all these ex-football players and famous people. And
oh my God.
Thing. And it was like this crazy closed down Times Square thing.
Oh my goodness.
And, I thought I was doing a regular show with 22 models and 50. It was like, all of a sudden I'm in the middle of Times Square with 110 people in a show. And then it was a huge success. So they brought me on board the following spring to help start LA Fashion Week and Miami Swim.
Love it. Love it. That is Times Square. Like, how long, like, what is involved with shutting down Times Square for a show? Like, how long did that take you? That just sounds like a logistical nightmare.
Fortunately, I didn't have to do that. But I only did the fashion show part, which was enough logistics for me.
Oh my God.
The NFL sponsor, the NFL special events took care of all that. My duty was the runway and the 110 looks and all the models. But it was right after 9/11. The year after, it was New York City's big comeback. So there was a lot of security, and we had to, do hair and makeup and dressers and all that, 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
Then wrangle everyone. So, we had to have lots of people that were in charge of, okay, you're in charge of those 10 people. Make sure they make it to the stage.
Yeah.
It was it's like wrangling cats, or, it's like, it was like toddlers, when you see them walking down the street and they're all attached to each other. That's kind of what you want to do.
Yeah, that's how I feel about celebrity wrangling. It's like wrangling toddlers.
Yeah, it was exactly. And there was a lot of celebrities in the show. So,
oh, wow, that's wild. That's wild. And then, one thing I thought was really cool, just working with you at IMG as well, was just seeing how, the designer was having a hard time securing funding for shows. Like, you would help with partnerships, which I thought was really cool. How important do you think are partnerships for brands, just in terms of, whether it's a show or just PR, like how important are brand partnerships for fashion?
I think it was a little bit more taboo back then, doing these partnerships. And then it's become a lot more acceptable because it's very expensive to do a show. But I've always been a true believer that it's got to make sense. So, I mean, sometimes those partnerships are behind the scenes. Sometimes, I remember doing a partnership with Betsy Johnson and Sharpie. There's no one else that really, like, you can't do a partnership with a Carolina Herrera and Sharpie. It doesn't make sense. Betsy Johnson is fun and she's known for her illustrations and her color and all that. So it makes sense. So it's a matter of bringing those partnerships together. And, when you work with a company like IMG, you have to work on both sides of the table. And I was the designer relations person and executive producer, but I also had to make sure our sponsors were taken care of and that it made sense, the things that they were doing. So
absolutely,
it became more and more, there's different brands, everyone wants to be affiliated with a Mercedes-Benz or an American Express, but then there's other kind of wilder partnerships that you have to be creative with. And now when the economy is bad and you still have to present a collection, you still have to produce a collection, these additional funds are super important.
Absolutely. And you mentioned costs. What is the range, for the designers who are listening and are considering maybe, doing a presentation or a show? What's sort of the range for a good, decent show?
Everyone always asks that. And it's you really can't say. It depends.
Right.
There's so many things that are dependent on that. What quality of lighting, quality of space, how many friends you have in the industry that'll work for free.
Yeah.
The quality of the stylist and the dressers and the pressers and there's no, I would say that your average, not average, but the starter is probably $100,000.
For sure. And is it worth it? Would you say it's worth it? You're like, of course it is. I work on this side. But no, what is the value?
That's not true. I've turned many designers down from doing shows because I don't feel ready for it.
Yeah.
And I don't think you should start doing a show until you can sustain it. If you're going to start doing shows, you got to be able to do it twice a year. And that's an even bigger commitment. So is there value in it? Of course there is, once you get to a certain level. It's your marketing, it's your content, it's your social media content, it's your store video, it's all of those things that last you 6 months. And if you do it right, you can use it for your e-commerce and all of it. So if it's done properly and you congregate, if that's the right word, the right content, then you're covering a lot of bases.
Amazing. That's extremely helpful, actually. Very helpful because people just want to jump in. So how did you make the transition from IMG to the Pier 59? What is your current role now, just in general? Because you're doing so much. You're like doing global projects. You're doing projects in New York. What are you working on now? What is your title?
Well, I do a little bit of consulting in different areas. Pier 59, I don't work at Pier 59 full time.
Right.
Consulting deal. So I do the fashion programming there, which is mainly Fashion Week and any special events that they need help in, just because I'm versed on permitting and all of that good stuff. I also produce individual shows. I was, the fashion director at Gen Art when that was around. So mainly shows, events, and then Pier.
Love. And they're always phenomenal shows. And you're just so well versed in production. I'm sure you can do a show with your eyes closed in your sleep. But I'm curious, is there a show that what was your favorite show of all time? Do you have one? One that really moved you? You watched it and you were just like, Wow. Like that was amazing.
Bill Blass's last show.
Describe. You were there. Oh my God, that's amazing. What'd you love about it?
It was I was still a venue manager, and I think it was still CFDA. It was Bryant Park, and it was it was in the middle of a hurricane.
Wow.
And I was the venue manager down at the the Altman building.
Mm-hmm.
And we closed up shop, and I went back to Bryant Park, and the department, like the buildings department was there, the fire department, everyone was there.
Wow.
Because of the hurricane and whether we should shut down. But everyone was in the space already, ready to watch the show. And so we decided to go on with the show because it was only 12 minutes or whatever. And it was just like, it was pouring outside. It was Bill's last show. So it was very, like emotional anyway. And the music was like, Beethoven and crescendos. And it was super, super crazy. And it was just very emotional. It was Bill Blass's last show, for God's sakes.
That's crazy. I'm going to have to look for a video of that show.
Yeah.
It sounds phenomenal.
Yeah, it must have been 99 or 2000. I'm not quite sure. It was a September show.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I am definitely, I'll put that in the show notes, y'all.
Yeah.
That is amazing. I'm, going back a bit, one of the things that I thought was so fascinating about your job at IMG was that big whiteboard in your office.
Yeah.
Do you miss it?
Not at all.
With all the scheduling. I mean, Christina would literally do the scheduling for New York Fashion Week, like right there in her office. All the colors, all of the different markers that you had, like you had a system. What was your system again?
Oh my God, what was my system?
You're like, what? It was amazing the way you did that. I mean, it was just so organized, color coded. I mean, it was just phenomenal to watch every season.
Oh my God. So it was just a big calendar of the 7 days of Fashion Week. And every designer and every venue had a colored Post-it. And you used to do it with me. So you know the system. Every venue had a color. And you would put the names on with their first, second, and third choices. And it was just a domino event. You would just move it around the board for time slots. And you were grandfathered into your time slot from the season before, which only worked for about 10 people. And the other 70 were just a crapshoot. And then we used to write down with dry erase marker what was happening off site.
Yes.
So that we could tell you obviously didn't want to pin two designers or against each other that were the same market, because we can't, we don't want to hurt anyone. So we don't want to split the audience, whether it's buyers or press or whatever. So yeah, no, it was very special. And I used to take pictures of it every night because I used to have reoccurring dreams that the cleaning woman would come in and decide that she wanted to clean the board off.
Oh my, can you imagine? No, that would be insane. No. I knew, I was like, okay, maybe I'm getting somewhere in fashion. When I got, I think it was Kelly Catrone cursed me out because of a time slot. And I was like, oh my God, I made it. Like, I'm getting cussed out about a time slot. Like, people get very passionate about their times and like when they're showing. So it's really, really interesting. And I remember Ruth Finley walking in, meeting with you in your office, which was really cool. Do you have any cool memories about Ruth?
Oh, Ruth. Well, the counselor hasn't been the same since she passed on.
Yeah.
She was, Ruth was amazing. She died at 96. She did it until she was probably 90. I don't even know. And she was very passionate about it. She never was jaded. She cared about every single designer, young or old. Mm-hmm. And that was impressive because it's easy to get jaded in this industry. And she just had a real passion and like caring about, especially the young kids. But there's a documentary coming out this year about her life. And, she was one of the pioneers and of women, really. She was, she started that. I don't even remember how old that to the fashion calendar was, maybe
like 1945 or 1947, something like that.
And she was a single mother of 3 boys in the 40s and 50s. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Her husband died when he was like 38 or something.
Oh my God. I had no idea. Wow.
So she was a single mother back then, which, unheard of.
Wow. And her suit game, she was just always dressed to the nines when she would come in. I'm like,
with the little brooches and like,
yes. I was like, oh, I want to tap into my inner Ruth someday. I loved every look. She was phenomenal.
And even after she sold the fashion calendar to the CFDA, I would go up to the Upper East Side and have lunch with her once every 6 months or so. We'd go to the same Italian restaurant and she would get the same exact thing every time. Cheese ravioli.
Really?
Crazy.
I love it. Carbs. Yes. Wow. That's amazing.
She's in her 90s.
What a legend.
She was a legend.
So for those starting out during a time like this, what advice would you give them for designers who are interested in showing or, figuring out some way to show their work during this crazy pandemic?
Well, right now, digital is the way to go. Yeah. Everyone's going digital for Fashion Week. It's honestly a little tone deaf to do it any other way.
Yeah.
So be as creative you can with a camera and present online. Yeah. I don't think fashion shows are ever going to go away. I think we'll be back at it. It's still the best way to present your collection. There's nothing better than seeing something in person and seeing the way it moves on a model and the real color and all of those things. But I think moving forward, we're always going to have some sort of hybrid between digital and in person, if only for sustainability and global warming. And I don't think we're going to be jet setting around as much and flying off to Paris and Milan and all of that. So I think most shows will probably be a little smaller and we'll be feeding those shows out digitally.
Wow. So you mean Fashion Week isn't over, Christina? Because there's so many people panicking. Fashion Week's over. New York is over. Everything's over. And I'm like, is it though? I think not.
These the same people that the sky is falling. It's just, if you're gonna be doom and gloom, you're gonna get doom and gloom.
Agreed.
You have to be the solution, not the problem.
Love that.
It's time to pivot. This was all things that were happening pre-COVID. It just accelerated it.
Yeah.
We were having issues with sustainability and the fact that there's less newspapers now and there's less writers now and there's less retailers now. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but what is next? Is next just having e-commerce on your website? For a lot of people, it might be.
Yeah. No.
Is it I don't think stores are ever going to go away, it's just, we have to be a little bit, are we going to, do we want to be a little bit more thoughtful in disposable fashion? Should you be buying one pair of great black pants instead of 5 cheap pants from H&M and Zara? Maybe. Because are we going to be working 5 days a week anymore? Who knows? A lot of us won't be. So do you need to have as many clothes as you do?
Wow.
So there's different ways of kind of looking at it. Wouldn't you rather have one really great suit that you're going to have for 10 years than having a one season thing?
Yeah.
So, I think it really depends. And I think should be thinking more organic cotton and not, the dyes and the disposable and the luxury goods that aren't sold, they destroy because they don't want to have anyone buying them cheap. And the whole thing is silly. These are things that need to be kind of ramped up and looked at and taken back a little bit.
Absolutely. Sustainability is so important. And, unfortunately, the fashion industry is one of the biggest offenders of waste on the planet. So it's definitely something we need to look into and deal with. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have from your point of view of the industry?
I don't think they realize how big the industry is and how many people it employs. From, the cotton growers, the salespeople, the retail people, the sewers, the weavers, the dyers, I don't think they realize, I don't know if it's true or not, but it was for many, many years, it was the second largest industry in New York after finance.
Wow.
I don't think people realize how big the industry and it is in the US and the world. And the other thing is, fashion shows, people just think they're a joke that aren't in the end. Oh, you just put a girl in a dress and throw her down the runway.
Right.
Yeah. Well, someone had to build a runway and put up the lights and hire the model and hair and makeup. And
that is so wild. Remember when I was dating a Doogie Houser and I brought him to one of the shows. And he was like,
really dating Doogie Houser, but that's what we called him.
That's what we called him. And he was just like, oh my goodness, everybody waits for this, like just a few minutes of a show. And I'm like, yeah. And it was phenomenal. Like, what are you talking about? So a lot of people really don't get it unless, they're in it, in the industry, or have a purpose.
They don't have to get it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't, I don't have to get monster truck rallies,
Yeah.
But if that's your thing, good on you.
Well, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about you and what you do?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe you should tell me that. You would know that.
I would say, again, I was actually chatting with Brienne about this. We still keep in touch. And we were just talking about just how people don't realize just how smart people who work in the industry are, how smart they are, solution oriented, really Jacks and Jills of all trades, getting things done. Even till this day, if I see someone has worked in fashion, I'm like, oh, great intern. Like, they'll get it done. It's just like, you're so smart and brilliant. And at the end of the day, it's just like, we're all people, we're people. Not everybody's like over the top looking down, Devil Wears Prada, all these like shows and movies that come out and sort of, focus in on maybe like one segment of the fashion population, but that's not really reflective.
Well, everyone thinks, everyone has the misconception that if you work in fashion, you're either working in retail or you're a designer.
Mm-hmm.
But even my family has no idea what I do. 30 years into it. And, but there's this misconception that those are the two categories and there's nothing in between.
Yeah.
It's a business, it's running businesses, it's business managers, it's accountants, it's trend forecasters, and all of the things that you can, do within an industry, whether, sales. There's so much more to it than designing a garment and then selling it in retail. There's 1,000 jobs in between those two things. And that's a misconception. It was a misconception I had when I went to fashion school, and which is why I was a retail management major for my first year. And then I kind of learned, but it's what I think I told you. I'm the vice president at the High School of Fashion Industries, their advisory board. And, it's the one thing that we try and teach the students there is there's so many things you can do in fashion. In college, when I was 20, I would have never thought in a million years that there was a job producing fashion shows. Like it would have never occurred to me.
Nope.
So, that as the advisory board, which is, the professional group that advises the students and the faculty for that matter, we're trying to expand those horizons and, expose everyone to the different areas of fashion.
Wow. I love it. They have the perfect person.
Well,
Absolutely.
There's like 12 of us, but
I'm glad you're on it. What is going on with swimwear? I have to talk about swim. Like, what is going on with swim? I remember doing Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week swim back in the day, and it's so funny. My dad still has his T-shirt. It looks like it's brand spanking new. Like he reveres it so much, and he says hello, by the way.
Oh, good.
But it's really great that you keep the swimwear going. Like, how important is swimwear to the industry, and what are you currently doing to help keep it going?
Well, I mean, it was the hardest event we ever did, but it was the most rewarding because we were such a small staff. And there's nothing worse than Miami in July. Swim seems to be one of those sustainable things that even in a recession or that people still buy. Mm-hmm. I remember we started that event when we were going through that event originally, which was like 2008, which was the recession.
Yeah.
The swimwear market was up 12% because people would go out and buy a $200 bathing suit, but they wouldn't go out and buy a $3,000 dress because it was tone deaf. And I think it'll probably get through this recession as well. Now, I relaunched it because IMG stopped doing it in 2014, which was the 10-year anniversary.
Wow.
And then I relaunched a smaller version with the Swimwear Association of Florida last year, which was a smaller version, and we only did like 6 shows, but it was successful and fun and all those things. But obviously we didn't do it this year because of COVID.
Yeah. COVID. And you also mentioned something really cool from our previous conversation about Curvy Con. Like, I want to go. Like, what, if you could just tell the listeners what it is and, when does it typically occur? I already called my cousin. Like, we are making plans. As soon as this pandemic is over, we are there.
No, we're following each other on Instagram. So Curvy Con is something I started that I didn't start, but Cece and Chastity, they're both pretty famous plus size bloggers, started, I think 5 or 6 years ago. It's basically, I don't want to say a sample sale, but it is an event that they do over 2 days. And you can buy packages, VIP packages and different things. They have DJs. It's lots of fun. You go in. They have booths where you basically can buy retail, and it's only plus size vendors and designers.
Wow.
And it's grown and grown every single year. I started working with them 3 or 4 years ago with Dia & Co., who was at their time, I'm not sure anymore, their presenting sponsor. And I don't know if do you know what Dia & Co. is?
No.
So Dia & Co. is one of those box
subscriptions?
Subscriptions. So you have a personal stylist. So you do deal with a real person. You send them their measurements. You're like, oh, I like stripes, but I don't like flowers and things like that.
Cool.
So you have a personal stylist. They send you 5 pieces a month. You keep them, you don't keep them. It doesn't matter. You try them on, send them back and all that. They have, you can watch it on, they do have a YouTube and on Facebook. You can watch them, which is pretty cool.
Yes.
So I did a show with them. They were doing some designer collaborations. And then the second season, we did a couple more shows. And then last year we did 3 shows. And then again, we're in COVID. So we're not doing Curvy Con.
Like,
it should have been next week.
Oh no, it looks so amazing. I'm like, I really, really, just the way you were describing it, I'm like, okay,
yeah.
we have to go.
We started the first season, to kind of be the first fashion show, plus size fashion show during Fashion Week. It was before 11 Honoree and Chromat and all those people were doing shows. So, it was fun, and it's a fun event. There is a press component to it, but it's mainly consumers.
So fun. That sounds amazing. Can't wait. We're definitely going next year. My last question. Unfortunately, our time is coming to an end, which I'm really sad about. But what would you say is your favorite fashion moment of all time? It can be a personal moment. It could be industry related. Totally up to you.
Oh my God.
Like, what?
I mean, wouldn't that be the Bill Blass moment? Is that more the same question?
No, that's the show. But was there a moment like maybe growing up, when you wore this blue dress that you loved, or it could be anything.
When I still think about this, it's so funny. And this is such a silly story. I think about fashion, and I remember my mother used to laugh at me, and I'm talking about when I was 4 years old. I had this white eyelet dress and red Mary Janes, and I used to wear it all the time. And I had a white little rocking chair with red and white stripes on it. And I used to love to sit in that chair because I matched it. And and my Raggedy Ann doll did too.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
And she had red Mary Janes too, so it all kind of worked together. And
it worked together. I love it. Thank you so much, Christina. You're amazing. We truly appreciate having you on the show. And we just look forward to watching what's next and seeing what you're up to.
Well, it's going to be a big change going forward, but it's all positive. It'll be positive.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna.
And if you're not positive, just move over.
I love it. I need that on a t-shirt.
Exactly.
I should wear that at the next Fashion Week with a skirt or something.
Here you go.
Thank you, Christina. I appreciate it.
It's nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you as well. Have a great day.
We'll talk soon. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. Now it's time for my favorite segment where we get to hear from you, our listeners, about your favorite fashion moments.
Hi, A Fashion Moment podcast. Hi, Kirsten. My name's Elizabeth. I'm in Washington, D.C., and my favorite fashion moment was the 2018 Met Gala, Heavenly Bodies, Fashion in the Catholic Imagination. I love that it was a little bit controversial in the sense that people were like, oh, we shouldn't be turning religion into pageantry, but I think that religion and religious garb has always had a sense of pageantry, and no one represented that better than Rihanna in her Pope outfit. I think that also by opening that theme up beyond just religious garb, but to the concept of heavenly bodies also was a really interesting opportunity for stylists and the party attendees to take a spin on what they imagine to be heavenly. You know, we saw people evoke saints and truly religious iconography, thinking of Madonna, but then we also saw like Mindy Kaling in a beautiful crown and a blue dress. You know, she looked regal. So I think that it was open to interpretation in a way that allowed for people to really show what they saw as being beyond the ordinary, extraordinary, heavenly. And I think that playfulness and that also taking something so serious and making it fun and making it beautiful really, to me, is at what the core of the purpose of fashion, which is to express and relate and elevate. Love the podcast, huge fan. Thank you so much.
Hi there, I'm Becca from the San Francisco Bay Area, and my favorite fashion moment, COVID-19 edition, would be during the pandemic and throughout most of 2020. I've always been a huge fashion lover, but I like to find ways to kind of re-accessorize old outfits or bring old looks back to life instead of always, consuming new things. So I actually learned how to crochet my own scarves in the wintertime. So it was a super easy and fun and affordable way to not only learn a new skill, but also to revamp some old winter sweaters and stuff with a pop of color and, take an old gray sweater and I would crochet like a lavender scarf and wear that with it. And not only helped keep my creative side alive, but also teach me a new skill and teach me that I can basically do anything I set my mind to. So what I love about fashion is it allows you to change your expression as different times call for different ways of adapting, and that is my fashion moment.
Thanks so much for joining me for this week of A Fashion Moment. If you like what you hear, we'd love for you to join our community of listeners and spread the word about the show. We also want to hear from you. Share your favorite fashion moments and dream guests with us by sending an audio clip or email to afashionmomentpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can tag us on Instagram at A Fashion Moment, and you could be featured on next week's episode. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review and let us know what you think. Until then, see you next time for another fashion moment. Podcast production by Rebecca Rashid and John Taylor Williams. Digital media production by Megan Porras.
This recording carries a Creative Commons 4.0 international license. Thanks to Patrick Patricios for their song, Hot Coffee.